they're doing that, our theme was reducing the lead time from when a Herbasset home resident room has become vacant until it is ready for occupancy. And as Cecile mentioned, I was the team lead for this RPIW. We have named ourselves the Herbiville team, and we have the Herbiville Cup as our mascot, and each of our team members will introduce themselves and where they work. So this is our team, and they will, I'm going to put that right there, front and center. So I want to make special mention of our two patient family advocates, Marcy Priest, who is with us today and presenting, and Chris Donahue, who was with us for the majority of the week, who could not be here today, as well as Brian Anderson, who is our maintenance man for basketball and participates. He is unable to be with us today as well. Our RPIW was chosen because it is tied to the surgical value stream and in reducing the waiting times for elective surgical patients. And we know that people who are waiting in long-term care, or in acute care beds, who have been assessed for long-term care, could, of course, be in a much better environment for quality of life. And we know that, so this RPIW was chosen to be able to look at making sure that we've got the right people in the right beds in acute care and getting the right people who are assessed for long-term care into the right environment for them. So we found out that the flow of information and communication between home care, Herbasset home staff, and managers, area managers, maintenance, and housekeeping wasn't being optimized. So our job was to look for opportunities there. This is our waste wheel at the beginning of the week, and sorry, it's upside down. I put it upside down, and you'll see through the event that it's been considerably decreased. Our target progress results sheet is our next sheet, and we're going to just speak to space in the presentation, and you'll see afterwards it was reduced. Our walking distance here, maintenance walk for death notification was significantly reduced, as you'll see, and our non-walking to submit a maintenance requisition was decreased as well. We'll go through the quality. We chose defects for maintenance. They were getting incomplete requisitions, and we felt that was important to look at for their value of time. And the cycle time as well, which is on the last page, looking at the notification, the death notification process that occurs. We focused on those. One of the challenges our RPIW had was we couldn't actually see before or after Kaizen the actual processes because the deaths did not occur, which is great. But so we did everything through simulation, retrospective data, and interviews. So hand it over to Cecile.
So you'll see in front of you our value stream map for the current state. And there are three main processes around the resident death or transfer or discharge, and the notification process, the room preparation, and then the admission of a new resident to their new home. There are two lead times when a resident room is not renovated and when the resident room is renovated. And there's a substantial difference there from 16.84 days of turnover to 8.5 days of when the room is maintained or has been renovated. I'm sorry. So that's certainly a very key message in this current value stream where we needed to focus. And our TAC time, upon the review of the material, we have an admission of an individual to the Herbasset home once every 5.21 days. We used a lot of different data points to look at our issues, and you would see before you the priority list for admissions throughout the region to long-term care, and 38 come from the community, 18 from acute care, 3 from out of the province, and two from out of the province and 3 from out of the region. We used other data points such as transfers, and also we examined the reason why individuals are having surgery canceled, of which we'll turn to the next slide. You would note that the largest region for cancellations of surgery is a lack of an appropriate room. And that is not always, but significantly tied to individuals waiting for long-term care placement in acute care. And that is our percent load chart that very graphically shows the difference between a renovated room and a room that's not renovated.
Good afternoon, my name is Taylor. I work with the Kaizen Promotion Office, and I've had the privilege of being a participant with this fine crew this week. One of the first work processes that was timed in order to identify some of the waste going forward will be illustrated in these next forms. This here is the time observation form. What this shows is the process steps for a nurse unit manager to make that pre-Kaizen maintenance rec, to put that in, if you will. The total lead time looks like it would have been about pre-Kaizen 13 minutes and 48 seconds. The next form is the standard work combination sheet. What this illustrates is the current sequence of the process steps, as well as the expected completion time and your takt time there, there's the red line. The next we should see is a spaghetti chart. The lines, of course, are the spaghetti within that flow. That's what the flow looks like in this space of the work. Why we chose to highlight this particular work process first is that it was an important initial first stage. It was a first change idea that really began some better communications between maintenance and this crew, and really started a lot of good collaborations for efficiencies and looking for waste together, so it's a good first step.
Hi, my name is Joanne. I work for home care, so I'm going to be talking about post-Kaizen. So this is the time observation form where it was 13 minutes before to put in a maintenance requisition. It is now 2 minutes and 12 seconds. This is the work combination sheet, which is showing that it's a lot less time, although the distance is still, he has to walk to the printer, but it still translates to less time as shown on this diagram. So the percentage load chart, we set up some standards. Families always have up to 3 days to take their personal possessions out of the room. For a major renovation and some light housekeeping following, they feel we can have that completed within 6 days. For some minor repairs and housekeeping, that'll be done in 1 day. And although it was outside of my focus, or our focus, for this Kaizen, the goal will be to try to have somebody ready and admitted on day 5.
Hi, my name is Melissa Priest. And I was pleased to be the representative for family and patients in this process. This is our pre-5S scoring sheet, and our score was 1.33 for the clean utility room. And the drawing is the drawing of the room before we moved or changed anything in there. As you can see, it's quite crowded. We've got some more pictures of the room before. It's a little difficult to get at things, plus the fridge is very much in the way as to accessing the room. Again, some more pictures with stuff on the floor, supplies on the shelves, not labeled properly. And
I'm Melissa, and I'm a carer on Paradise Path, and I'm going to do the post-5S of the clean utility room. This is our score evaluation sheet with a score of 2.64. This is a drawing of after we remove the fridge due to infection control. It has moved to a temporary spot. This is the view now into the room after the fridge and shelves have been removed and stuff back on the shelves. And the shelves do have labels with the proper stuff in front of them. This is a drawing for after the renovations are done in about 2 weeks, that it will look like.
Hello everybody, I'm Sharon Griffin. I'm the Director of Acute Care Nursing and was pleased to be a part of this team this week. So what we knew from the data was that we had double the turnover time for rooms that required complete renovation in the Bassett home. And for the long term, we knew we had 96 out of 144 rooms that needed to be completely renovated. And so we felt that was important to address, to overall long-term sustain increased turnover in beds to allow for greater flow to those beds in long-term care. We met with the management team from the Herb Bassett home and Darlene from long-term care and Nola, and we did get approval to try something that was put in place before where they used one respite bed to allow for flexibility so that residents could be temporarily located into this flex bed while their room was renovated. We felt that was imperative and so did get approval that we could go forward by reducing the Herb Bassett home respite beds from 2 to 1 to allow this to happen. The next thing that we did, and I want to say that I worked mostly with Brian Anderson this week from Herb Bassett Maintenance, and he can't be here today. But Brian and I sat down and created standard work for a room that required complete renovation as well as room that required normal renovation. And it was key for us to identify the time that it took for each of those tasks and each operator. Then we also developed standard work for an electronic maintenance requisition so that we would decrease the defect and the time spent wasted by maintenance running around to find out exactly what needed to be done. Following the standard works created, we worked on the standard work combination sheet because as well as knowing what each operator did, we needed to know if it was possible to do ongoing regular maintenance of a scheduled room while they are still needing to do their other normal tasks that would occur with normal vacancies or other repairs, etc. So we broke down the work of each operator looking at maintenance, flooring, and painter, and identified what their roles were in each of the renovation process days, and where it's highlighted in orange is where they're free to do other work. So we decided that that was doable. And then we built into our standard work a trigger tool so that they would know when they would need to call in additional resources to keep the scheduled room renovations going. And they identified that as if they had 3 or more rooms that needed repair simultaneously, that would be their trigger to call in additional resources. The standard work developed, while it's been developed, it still needs to be tested and timed. Okay, so following the standard work development, we looked at a schedule of where are we going to start. So Brian went through and identified all of the rooms, and I've got a geographic layout here. We are creating some visual tools as well that have been ordered, but they won't be done. So maintenance will have the whole geographic layout of the Herb Bassett home, and there will be a color key code that will go along with this. Each of the units will have their own pod so that staff and maintenance will be able to tell at a glance what the ongoing progress is. But once we identified the safety priorities, we met with the nursing unit managers in each area to identify a wing that could be started on once the safety renovations were completed, so a starting point. And it was determined that once the safety concerns were done, maintenance would go to Paradise Path, stay there to finish, then go to Lakeland Trail, then go to Golden Hill. We also developed a standard letter to send out to families and guardians of residents, elders in the Herb Bassett home, just explaining the process and how they can help. And this will be sent out with the financial billing statements at the end of the month. And the last thing we did was we developed audit tools on how to measure and monitor progress going forward.
Hi, my name is Maureen. I'm a registered nurse in the Herb Bassett home. We were able to work on 2 standard work pieces in regards to supply of communication on vacancy. The first one is a communication process that is from nurse to departments that would reflect that there has been a vacancy. We identified the need to include additional departments of a room that had become open that had previously been overlooked, including our maintenance department and our home care department. We also were able to make a deletion from the list of phone calls that had been deemed unnecessary. We reduced the number of phone calls a nurse was required to make on vacancy from 11 to 3 by creating a standardized email template that will communicate vacancy information by 1 email to 8 different departments. We also identified the 3 phone calls that still needed to be made that were top priority for identification of vacancy. Our second standard work was the development of a bereavement kit, and this is a kit to be used from the Herb Bassett home to family. And this kit is for use by the family that will hopefully improve the process of vacating a room in a timely fashion. And the kit contains items that are of a compassionate nature, directives to the family for dispersal of belongings, and visual tools for departments within the Her Basket home that would identify both that a room is now vacant and that a room is now ready for new life or work.
So as a sub-team lead, and I forgot to identify myself, Cecile Hunt, I'm happy to show you very graphically that in this week we have done a lot of work, and we've actually been able to X out a few of our Kaizen bursts or opportunities for improvement. And following that, we then looked into the future. Next week, next month, what is the future at the Her Basket home going to look like around the processes of vacancy and readmission. And so there's still work to do. Future RPIWs are present in those Kaizen bursts, and but you would note that we see our future going from 16.84 to 9.9 days if a room needs to be renovated, as well as if the room's been renovated, we still see some improvement at 4.9. So a lot more value for our residents and their families, as well as our surgical patients who may have had surgery canceled because there was a lack of an available bed. This is our waste wheel. You'll see that our opportunities for improvement have led us really to hone in on what we saw as waste and how could we remove it in a timely fashion. This is our target progress report, and you've heard a lot of our improvements and around walking, as you would see that our maintenance staff will have zero walking now, 0 feet of walking, so 100% improvement now with the use of electronic maintenance forms. We also have, and we'll turn, there is a lot of improvement around defects. We had looked at 0 defects for maintenance requisitions, and actually were able to achieve that. Again, 100% improvement. And the last piece I'd like to profile for you is our 3S score. We've gone from 1.33 to 2.64, an improvement of 24%. While we know we've got a ways to go, and it's certainly lots of improvement in this last week, and also our cycle time we have seen has improved, and that turnover time will really be beneficial to our residents and their families. And just in closing, I'll turn it over to Lisa, our team lead.
So that brings us to our newspaper, and as you can see along the side there, we've got lots of completed items. There is, just on the other side, we've got a couple of items that we have some work to do on, and that's training the staff in the new standard work, but also we need final approval from area management in Her Basket home to get that standard work signed off and approved. So those are a couple of items. So in summary, we have lots of good discussion, but to highlight some points is really the patient and the family input and perspective is of utmost value. We couldn't have done this without Chris and Marcy. And our having dedicated time for improvement makes such a difference to be able to provide this type of environment. And that quality improvement, it's a learning experience that requires patience and commitment. So we want to really highlight those. And as thank you, we want to thank the Her Basket home residents there, and they're also called elders and their families. The family representatives, again, Marcia and Chris. The Her Basket home staff for their enthusiasm and participation, specifically Paradise Pathway has occurred. The home care staff, Val Middlebrook, could not have done this without she stepped in to help us with 5S at the last moment. Brian Anderson, again, who couldn't be here. Our leadership team at Her Basket home, amazing, amazing. KPO support, Sherry Furness, who quadruple amazing. She's done from Health Quality Council. And the maintenance and environmental staff and managers for the health region, Ian and Brian, couldn't have done this without you as well. Richard Abercrombie, our JBA consultant, who is right there. And Frank Sukarav, who is our process owner, and Darlene Batty, our sponsor, who are at the back. And we just really want to thank you. So that really concludes our RPIW number 9. Thank you.